Welcome to Ecstatic Yoga. I am Grace. Thank you for being here for our week 8 Friday class. This is going to be fun. We're going to be doing balancing poses, and we're going to be reviewing last week's lesson on leading a yoga class. Please be sure to read the lesson. There's a lot of information in the lesson that I'm not reviewing. This is just kind of a little brief overview of the lesson. So you'll be reading it, and then we'll bring it into a little more 3D. You can see how it can be applied to a class. And remembering, everyone has their own style of teaching. So seeing how you might make it even different and unique to you, make it fit your personality, your style of teaching yoga. Let's begin. So in the yoga class, we discussed about setting up the space, making sure you have a clean space, making sure it's a nice, comfortable temperature, maybe have a candle lit. The music is really depending on the class. If it's going to be a power yoga class, the music would be a little different than if it's a yoga nidra class or a yin practice. When you're doing a yin or a yoga nidra and you have some music, yoga nidra, you might want to start with some music, doing some gentle asana, but once you move into the practice, I wouldn't advise music. Silence and lights down is usually the best. But if you have a yin class, you want to have your music with a beat that is slower than the heartbeat. And that invites your students, it invites them to relax, it invites them to get calm because the music is calming and the beat is slow. And that helps them to slow down themselves, keeping everything a little bit slower and more relaxed. And so that's this time. Make sure to start your class on time and to end your class on time, because so many people are on schedules. They might be taking a break from their work and they may just have an hour lunch break. They may need to go pick up kids at school. There's a lot of things that people may need to do. And if you had said it's going to be an hour class and it starts at 1 and ends at 2, then be sure to end right at 2 and start right at 1. And if you start at 1 and students begin to come in, they can just put their mat down, just smile at them. No sense of judgment or steering them down or making them feel bad they're a little late. We don't want to do that. But we do want to acknowledge they've arrived and that they can just put their mat down. And I'm going to see who that is. I'll be right back. Okay, the phone is off. I won't get any more interruptions. All right, so the first thing we would do when we start the class is a centering. And find your way to invite a centering, remembering students are always coming from the world, a lot of responsibility, time management. They may have a stressful job or a stressful home life or lots of children to take care of. We don't know what they're coming from. So to take a few minutes before we get right into asanas to center. So that's really important. And then we move into our asana practice, our asana flow. We'll be moving into balancing poses. And then after the balancing poses or your asana flow, whatever it is, it might be a standing flow, warrior flow, sun salutation flow, or moon salutation. However you put together your class, that's the main practice. And then we move into some releases, just to release or slow down, release that lower back, release the hips so they're comfortable for Savasana. And then we move into Savasana and then a closing. So that's the step-by-step is, greeting people, centering your main asana flow, and then some releases, and your final relaxation. And then you'll bring them back. And I like to bring them back kind of the same way, by scanning the body, bringing your attention to that intention, and then closing with the Namaste prayer. So let's begin with our centering, feeling those sits bones on the earth, feeling that connection, feeling that spine lengthen, finding yourself get a little taller, and beginning to breathe into the belly. And we'll move through a few breaths in silence as you simply use that breath as an anchor, as you slow the breath down, lengthen the breath, and become more and more present on your mat here now. And I invite you now to scan your body, the physical body, with no judgment, the energetic body, and the emotional body. No judgment, just noticing how you're feeling today in your physical being, your energy, your prana, this pranamaya kosha we've been focusing on this week. Taking a pause as you notice this energy field in and around you. The aliveness within you. Checking in with the emotional being. Not even needing to title or label or define emotions, because we're really inviting the felt sense, feeling into this kaleidoscope of so many emotions, all simultaneous, and just noticing and feeling. Being attentive to where you're at, your inner being, your outer being, this physical Annamaya Kosha. And then using this opportunity now to bring to your forefront of your conscious mind an intention, something you'd like to create. It could be non-physical or physical. Maybe more happiness, more peace, maybe a better job, or a nicer car, or bigger home, whatever it is, maybe a new relationship or a new friend. And as we move into this intention, we're going to see ourselves fully active in this intention, seeing yourself as happy, as peaceful in this relationship of your dreams, your job of your dreams, whatever it is that you're intending, and adding the emotion right here now. We're putting the cart before the horse. We're telling our subconscious mind that it's happening now, so that we'll out manifest it more rapidly. and releasing that intention with a this or better, this or better, this or better. Beautiful job. And let's move into our main flow, our asana flow. And there's a couple ways we can lead the class. One is through example, which is the most common. And so we're right here sitting in our seat. It's nice. We're right and ready to move into maybe a balancing bear and a boat. So when we move into example, it's kind of like follow the leader. You would be cueing them to move as you move. And so I have both heels on the floor. The knees are up. I got Xander right here in between me, which is very nice. It's a little clingy today. I'm not sure why, but that's okay. I'm going to let that happen. And so I always invite in balancing bear to start with one leg at a time. So we can have one heel down on the earth as we lift the other leg up and feel that gentle balance before we move both legs up together, if that's in your practice, and feeling the sensations. So I'm doing an example, kind of the follow the leader. I'm doing it while I'm inviting you to do it. And the other way would be to be cueing it, only cueing it. And that's when you maybe want to be observing your students or walking around the room. That's when you'd say, bringing that heel down on the floor. Now we're going to take the other leg, but I wouldn't be cueing it. I would be cueing it only. So we'll take that other leg up, bringing the hand to the outside of the foot and stretching that leg up into a balance. And that gives you an opportunity when you're cueing without going into an example of it. That would give you an opportunity to walk around the room and check on the students and just making sure everyone is in alignment and in the pose and doing okay. So what we're going to do now is we're going to bring the hands around the outside of both feet. We're going to lift both heels up, balancing on those sits bones, a little bit of the sacrum, and straightening those legs. And if this isn't in your practice, you can just continue one leg at a time. And back to guiding students through the poses, you can also do a combination. You can have a practice where you're leading by example as you cue everyone into the poses, all the students, or you can have a little combination, walk around the room and verbally cue. That's more common than only cueing. I have never been to a class where the instructor only cued. I'm sure there are plenty of them. And let's release down. And remembering through this practice, especially as we're doing balancing poses, is that you can come out of a pose at any time when you need a break. And if you fall out of a balancing pose, just move back into the pose when, as soon as you can, and you feel regrouped, just move back in. One thing I did forget as we're going through this, how to lead a yoga class, is warm-ups. So before we move into our poses, that balancing bear is it's kind of a warm-up, especially when you're just doing one leg at a time. Let's move into a little bit of Baddha Konasana for a warm-up. Baddha Konasana is a good warm-up because it's a nice gentle way to open the hips. So you can begin wrapping your hands around the feet and flapping those butterfly wings, feeling that gentle opening of the hips. Sometimes when we mess up a little bit or we don't do things exactly right, it's actually a good teaching opportunity. So now that I forgot, the warm-ups is part of the very important part of your flow. We go centering, warm-ups, then our main asana flow, then our releases, and then our savasana. So now you probably won't forget them because I forgot them and now you won't. So relaxing those legs. Another really nice warm up is single leg forward folds. Because single leg isn't too challenging. You just have one leg out. The opposite, let me get back so you can see me a little better. Your opposite foot is going to be resting on the inner thigh. So I have my left leg out, my right sole of my right foot is resting on the inner thigh of my left leg. Inhaling as you lengthen the spine, and you can bring those hands up as you inhale. I don't like to take the hands forward because sometimes they'll come more and that starts to put stress on the lower back. So if you want to bring the hands up on your exhale and then bring them down to your heart or onto your hips or even the floor as you begin to hinge forward on the exhale. And resting on this edge for a nice deep breath. The bottom of the exhale, see if you can hinge a little bit more and allowing the spine to round. And breathe. It's very playful. And one more breath here. And coming up on your inhale. And let's switch legs. The right leg out, sole of the left foot resting on that right inner thigh. Inhaling, lengthening the spine. Let's bring those hands down and exhaling, hinging forward. And we're just going straight down because we're not bringing these feet wide. We're right in front of our leg. If you have a wide stance, you'd want to turn the body to square the leg. And see if you can hinge a little bit deeper in the spine and then rounding the back and bringing the head in, honoring where you are in this forward fold. And there's always the option to flex and extend that extended foot. And on the next inhale, coming gently up. Beautiful job. And let's do one more warm up. So we're back in our Sukhasana. We'll do a little, let's do a little twisting of the spine and a little lateral movement of the spine. So we'll do some lateral movements for you. You can inhale those arms up. You can either put the hands together, put them in temple, or even clasp them together and bring them upside down. And moving over to the side as you open up the side body and move that spine laterally. And breathe. And one more breath. Inhale, coming up and moving to the other side. And a couple breaths on this side. And coming up on your next inhale. Beautiful job. Releasing the hands. It's always good to warm that spine up. We're going to go into a gentle twist. We're not going to move into a seated spinal twist. That twists our spine a little bit because we're bringing the right leg over to the bar of the left. So that adds a lot more twist. If we just sit in a Sukhasana, see easy pose and bring the right hand to the left knee. The left hand's right behind the left buttocks. It's a nice gentle twist. Inhaling, lengthening the spine. Exhaling, twist. Gazing out over that left shoulder. And 2 more breaths. And release. We'll move to the other side, taking the left hand onto the right knee, right hand on the earth behind the right buttocks. Inhaling, lengthening, and exhaling, twist. And a couple more breaths on your own. Gazing out over that right shoulder. And release. And now we're ready for the main practice, our balancing. We've already done our balancing here, so we don't need to do it again. So while we're sitting, we can move into our boat. Boat is a really nice seated balance. We'll do a couple seated balances, and then we'll move up to standing. I like to move into boat gradually. First, you feel those sits bones on the earth, maybe a little bit that sacrum as well. And let's see, I got Xander here on me. And the first step is to bring those legs up and have the calves so they're about parallel to the floor, kind of a half boat. And this may be your practice. It's a nice balance. It's still a challenge, and you're balancing on your sacrum even when you're in the full boat. And if you want to move into full boat, we're going to extend the legs and the arms. And find your drishti and breathe. One more breath. And to come out, I like to go back into that half boat and then bring those feet down. Beautiful job. And so we're going to bring ourselves directly into a table pose now. And move into a balancing boat. So knees are right under the hips, wrists are right under the shoulders. And we'll move into a little cat-cow to start. Flexion and extension of that spine. And then coming back to center. And with our balancing boat, we're going to take the right arm and the left leg and bring them up and extend them away from the body. You find your drishti and breathe. And at the bottom of the exhale, coming down. Beautiful job. We move to the other side. Left arm is out and the right leg. Feeling them reach away from the body. Engage those bandhas and breathe. Find your drishti. One more breath. And release down. And I like to move into child's pose from here and can just come right into a nice child's pose. Taking a couple breaths. Child pose is always a nice a nice relaxation in between poses. And coming up. And while we're on the floor, and this isn't a really good example of choreograph and flow, but like we talked, we can learn from what doesn't work. So probably if I was working, I haven't put this in a real choreographic flow, but if I was here doing balancing bear and boat, this would have been more intuitive to move myself into a shoulder stand, a half shoulder stand. So it's balanced because you're balancing on those shoulder blades and this upper part of your back. So let's move into that. And if you want to shoulder stands not in your practice, you can just do the variation of bringing the legs up, or you can even bring them up against the wall. If shoulder stand is in your practice, you can lift those legs up, bringing the hands to the small of the back. Feet are right above the eyeballs, and breathe. And one more breath. So we're balancing on that upper arm, the upper part of the back, and hinging those hips and bringing those legs into a nice plow pose. Legs parallel to the floor. I like to stay parallel to the floor to protect this lower back. And curling those legs in, and bringing the hands to the earth, and nice and slowly, one vertebrae at a time, rolling down. I always fail to go into Matsyasana, but we're going to come up. So this isn't a perfect choreographic flow, but we'll go back into our table. So right after table balancing pose, we're really set up in a good way, choreographically wise and flow wise, to move into a three-legged dog balancing. So first thing we do is move into down dog. Curl those toes under, straighten the legs, lift the hips into downward facing dog. And once you're into your downward facing dog, you can kick that leg out and feel that nice balance. So the fingers are spread to give you even more balance. That upper shoulder, the upper arm, with just a slight external rotation. The upper thigh, a slight internal rotation. The extended thigh as well. You want to keep those hips square. And one more breath. And coming down. Beautiful. We move to the other side. Kicking that left leg out and back. And feel that slight external rotation of the upper arm and the slight internal rotation of the upper legs. And breathe. One more breath. And releasing the leg down. And a nice way for us to come up to standing from down dog is just walk those hands, those feet, so they're right between the hands. And there you are. And you can roll up nice and slowly up into your standing position. Beautiful job. And we're going to do a few balancing poses standing up today. Most common balancing pose that everybody knows of is tree. So let's move into tree. First thing we're going to do is bring all our weight and all our energy into the right standing leg. And imagine that right leg, a tree trunk with roots going deep and wide into the earth to keep our stability and our balance. And we lift the left leg. First, let's open the hips with that left leg. So our hips are open. It's nice and wide. And you can rest that left heel on the right lower leg, that ankle there. And this may be your pose. You could bring your tree branches up. Or if you'd like to challenge yourself, you can bring that out onto the shin. It's advised not to bring the foot onto the knees. You can bring it onto the thigh. And you can even move into lotus with that leg. And finding a drishti and breathing. And when you're ready to release, releasing the leg, coming back and bringing the arms down. And we'll move to the other side, bringing our weight and our energy into this left standing leg, imagining it's a tree trunk and those roots are spreading deep and wide, keeping you rooted, opening up this right leg, opening up the hips, resting that right heel on the left lower leg. And then if you're wanting to challenge yourself, finding where you want that leg, upper thigh or maybe even in lotus. And bringing those tree branches up. It could be a deciduous tree, a nice round deciduous tree with lots of leaves and branches, or you could be a coniferous tree, a pine tree, pointing straight up. Find your tree and your branches. And one more breath. The bottom of the breath, releasing the leg and releasing the arms. Beautiful job. Let's move into a half moon. This is, I like this balance. It's a little easier than most because you're on one foot and you have one hand on the earth. The tree, you just were balancing on just one leg. So this offers a little bit more stability, but it's a nice one. What I like to do with this, with half moon, is to first find where you're going to be bringing your hand down. Just get oriented to that. So you're going to be moving into a nice balance here, but find where your hand is going to be. So it's going to be a little outside and a little above the foot. So find that spot for yourself. So when you move into it, you're not negotiating right as you're moving into the pose. So bring in the weight to that right standing leg, all that energy. You can imagine, again, it is a tree trunk and those roots are rooting your leg in. And then finding your spot on the earth and bringing that back leg out and the arm up. Beautiful job. And breathe. One more breath. Beautiful. And bending that standing leg as you come out of it. And then we move to the other side in our half moon. So bringing the weight to that left standing leg, the energy, finding that spot where you're going to bring your hand. And as you bend that knee and come down, take that right leg out, straighten the left leg, and breathe. One more breath. And bending that left leg as you gently come out. Beautiful job. And let's see. We're going to end this class because I have company, so I'll let you end early, wishing you a most beautiful and most blessed day. Namaste.